And now, your presenter for today's dynamic workshop, For the Love of COVID, a viral response to a viral ambush, is Foxy Jackson. Foxy Jackson is a sane RN, certified coach, a Reiki master, an advocate, altogether emerging leader for the Dallas cohort, president of Foxy's I Speak, and a best-selling author. Foxy, the digital floor is now yours.
Am I unmuted? Oh, I am. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And thank you so much for choosing this session today. I'm a lover of TASA and everything that it stands for. And I hope that you enjoyed today's session. Please fill out the survey so I can make sure that I get some feedback on what was good, what wasn't good, what could be done better. I would ask that if you have pen and paper or pencil and paper, please have those handy. This is very interactive because it is for you. And so I'm going to need you to participate in the chat room. There will also be space where you can just unmute yourself and ask a question. All questions are welcome. And I'm going to exit out of here and try to share my screen. Maybe. Okay. So when I share my screen, does it show the little people on the side? Or does it just show it shows the people on the side? Okay, what about now? And you'll have to talk because I can't see any faces.
So we can see just your screen. Participants will be able to see other folks depending on the view screen that they select. But as far as what we see from your screen share, it's just your presentation.
Okay, so if there's anything I need to know, you'll just have to interrupt me because I can't see anything. Sorry.
You got it.
Okay. For the love of COVID, which is like almost an oxymoron because love and COVID just don't seem to go together. But we're gonna get there. The objectives for today are to recognize the resilient solutions created in response to the social, economic, and educational impact of COVID-19 on America. Understand how COVID-19 interfered with the process of healing from past traumas, and learn how loving COVID-19 creates a resilient and grateful community. So what are your first thoughts when you hear the words coronavirus and COVID-19? Is there a way that I can see the chat while I share?
It usually pops up in a separate window if you select chat. So if you go up, it's so hard when you're sharing your screen, but if you go up to the top, that's where you can find the chat box.
Oh, that's not what I needed to do. There we go.
And while you're doing that, Foxy, I can read you some of the responses. Quarantine, masks, fear, chaos, out of control, irritation and anger, personal loss, fear for my children, social distancing. I'm assuming it's
Yeah.
Irritation and anger. Why? BS. Disruption. Manipulation and anger. When will it stop?
All of those sound very heavy. very heavy. Some of the things that I put on here were death, loss of jobs, the CARES Act, separation, women giving birth alone, loved ones dying alone, helplessness, vulnerability, insufficient PPE supplies, which those who work in the hospital as medical staff would understand that. There were times we had to reuse masks. We had to be assigned one mask for your week's shifts and wondering if that mask was going to be enough to stop the spread of this virus. And of course, the stay at home. And the stay at home mandates caused varied reactions. For me, I was excited because I get to stay at home, because I have anxiety when I go out into large spaces and I'm around a lot of people. So being able to stay at home with my children is what I love to do anyway. However, it became an issue because when I did want to go out to the store was closed. When I needed to go or wanted to be around other people, they weren't able to because everybody had to stay at home. And then while everyone else was staying at home, I was still required to go into work. So there were a lot of mixed emotions around those things that were being imposed upon us because of the coronavirus. I like to call it the year of tissue, masks, and shortages. I have never, ever seen such a shortage of tissue in my entire life. There were times I would have to travel out of the state to find tissue because there was no tissue on the shelves. The other part of the coronavirus pandemic was the year of social issues. The George Floyd murder. There were protests and riots. There were lynchings of Blacks from trees. There was the Botham Jean murder in Dallas, the stalling of the Emmett Till anti-lynching law, the passing of the COVID-19 anti-hate crimes law for Asians and Pacific Islanders. The book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo became a hot topic. I was even involved in a book review for that book where there were it was a group of white people who were my former teachers, my former, from elementary school to high school, people from my community who invited me in so we could have those difficult conversations. And there were some difficult conversations. So even though it was like we were threatened on all levels. When we talk about the military and war, we would call this a total war. Everybody was involved in this pandemic. Everyone from the environmental services who were cleaning these rooms, from the people who were delivering mail, the people in the grocery stores who had to be there so we could get food, the people who were stocking, the people who were transporting supplies, the people who were doing data entry. Everybody, every person was involved and is still involved in this pandemic. And not only was it a medical and health pandemic, it became a pandemic of social order, because when you take things from people, they grasp onto things that they can control. And when it becomes difficult for them to control certain aspects of their lives, they begin to lash out. Things come to the surface that may not have been so prominent before. In the area of a lot of the social issues when it comes to Blacks and people of color, that became more prominent because now that everybody's having to stay at home, more people are on social media. There was TikTok became a social phenomenon. There were
Foxy, really quick, if I can pause you for a quick second. Our interpreters asked if you could just go a little bit slower.
Yes. I will. I knew it was going to happen. When we were, many people were at home using social media. They were watching more television. They were videotaping everything. Everything became something to do because they had so much more time on their hands. So these types of things that were on the news with the coronavirus, there was a constant replay. The things that were on the news for social issues, constant replay. And then we're having to stay at home. And those of us who are in advocacy were concerned because now the perpetrators, these abusive partners, are now in a home and being told they can't leave. These victims are unable to go to work. The children are unable to go to school. And so everybody's in this small confined space. And even if they wanted to reach out to a resource, those resources are closed or they have limited hours. And then the ones who are on the other side as advocates, providing those resources, are feeling anxiety because they are unable to do what they feel needs to be done. So in essence, the wounds of America were exposed. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the middle picture where it says, I can't breathe. When we hear that and we see the sign, we often go back to the George Floyd murder, I can't breathe, where he was saying, I can't breathe. I want you to take that statement and separate it out from everything that's surrounding it and just look at the statement, I can't breathe. And just for a moment, I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to blow it out and don't breathe in. Some can breathe, some can hold their breath longer than others. Some can hold their breath for 3 seconds and they feel like they are about to pass out. Some can hold their breath for 2 minutes and they feel like they can go longer. The importance of this statement in this session is not the relationship it has with George Floyd, but the relationship it has with trauma. Anytime we go through a trauma or an experience, there's an essence of, I can't breathe. Some can go through that experience for a short amount of time before they are exhausted, before they're depressed, before they're filled with anxiety, before they dissociate from their emotions. Others can go much longer before those things happen. What has happened in this pandemic is that even those who can go much longer before the trauma seems to affect them, they have exhausted that time period. And so now we're dealing with a trauma that has gone on for over a year. Now, COVID-19 in and of itself may not have been a trauma for you. It may have just been an experience that you're going through. However, you will come in contact with someone for whom this is a traumatic experience in one way or another. That trauma doesn't always have to be death. It can be fear. It can be loss of a job. It can be having to move back in with family. It can be not being able to go see a family member, not being able to touch someone that you love, not being able to be around people, not being able to have your outlet of going outside and breathing fresh air without the fear that it might kill you. So there were a lot of things that were going on and are still going on as we move through this pandemic. Now, the next slide is, what's there to love about that? What is there to love about COVID? And in asking that question, I want you to drop a note into the chat on the question, what is love? When you decide to define love, what is love? And it's not letting me look at the...
We have time, showing appreciation for the people that you care about, many types of love, dedication and commitment, being there when our loved ones need us the most, strong, presence, acceptance, and food. Not just a feeling, but an action, friendship, self-care. Love can represent different types of emotions, patience and kind, finding good peace, security. COVID made many of us start appreciating the little things.
Yes, it really did. Little things like being able to be around your family more, learning more about family members that live in your household, being able to take your pets out on a walk. I mean, there were so many small things that we took for granted. Having tissue. I know one year I went to Brazil, and in Brazil, Salvador, when you go to the restroom, there's an attendant there at the door, and she rolls off so many rounds of tissue and gives it to you. And that's all the tissue you have to work with. So regardless if it's number 1, number 2, number 3, you only have this small amount of tissue to work with. And so when, which was a shocker for me as an American, because we have access to surplus. So just small things like being able to put tissue on the roll or going to the store and being able to find what you're looking for. Those were lots of those small things. When I like to define love as many, many things because it's very subjective. I like to say that love is a state of emotional vulnerability. And I say that because in most of the comments that were made defining love, it had to do with giving love to someone else, being there for someone else, showing someone else patience and kindness. There was one that said self-care, which is what I want to talk about today. I want to focus on us because we do a lot in the community and we have exhausted ourselves in the community trying to be creative and doing our work in spite of the conditions of the COVID pandemic. Brene Brown said, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. Sometimes the truth is that we don't know how to love ourselves. Love is confusing. Love is conditional. Love is necessary, but in short supply. There are many people who have been hurt by love. Love causes heartache. Love causes loneliness. Love is tricky. There are many things that come along with saying, I love you, or someone loves me, or someone doesn't. And so what I want you to do today is to have the courage to acknowledge those things about yourself. We give people all the peace and the love and the patience, but I want us to the challenge is to give that to ourselves, to give ourselves that peace, to give ourselves that love, that forgiveness, that honesty. Be honest with how you are feeling. Be honest with how things are affecting you. It is an automatic response when someone says, how are you today? And the automatic response is, I'm fine, or I'm good. How are you? And it becomes so automatic that if you have someone say, how are you today? And you say, I'm good, and just stop right there and don't ask them how they are, they will automatically say, I'm good too. It's amazing. Sometimes I do it on purpose just to see if they're really listening or if they're just responding. So, for the love of COVID-19, as you can tell, I have made it an acronym, and this is where your handy dandy notebook comes into play. First, we're going to talk about the brain on trauma. So as we're going through not just the trauma experience of COVID, but any trauma, whether that is someone died, someone lived, someone was arrested, someone got out of jail, your book got wet, your car got wrecked. Anything can be a trauma for anyone. Just because something wasn't a trauma for you doesn't mean that it wasn't a trauma for someone else. Trauma is very subjective, and it has a lot to do with how your body and your brain respond to that experience based on your beliefs, your values, and your past experiences. So when the brain is going through something that's stressful, it is like these guys in the boat. They have implemented a method of getting around. So impulses and information from the environment come into the brain, and there is no clear paths anymore. It doesn't go through all the systems and up to the cerebral cortex so that we can come up with great thought and cognitive processes. It is like construction. It's diverted to other places. The places that remain highly active during a stressful event are the brainstem, which controls major functions in the body, like your temperature, your heart rate, your breathing, your consciousness. Those are the oldest part of the brain. Those stay functioning. The other part is the limbic system, which includes the amygdala and the hippocampus, or the hippocampus, however you want to pronounce it. That is where memory, reward, emotions, and bonding exist. So if we take away the cerebral cortex, which has to do with thinking, high intelligence, cognitive processes, and all we have left is our memories, our emotions, and the basic functions of our body. It is as if the other parts of our brain have been flooded, and we're just trying to get away to maneuver. So one of the things that I like to incorporate is cathartic writing. What are some examples of cathartic writing? And I use writing because you have to actually take a pen or a pencil and you have to physically write on a piece of paper, not texting on a phone, not typing on a computer, but actually writing. Because it connects the cerebral cortex to the other parts of the brain, the memory, the reward, the emotions. Because as you're writing about an event, you're also describing those emotions related to it. You're describing things from your memory. So you're having to put those things into words. Yes.
So we're getting some responses: scribble, doodle, letter writing, or stream of consciousness. Take forever to look up on the internet. I'm just going to say I don't know some of the responses.
I love it. So cathartic writing is any type of writing. It can be scribble. It can be taking a journal and writing, I don't know what I need to write today. I have clients that I'll tell to journal every day. I need you to write something down. And I say, even if it's, I don't know why the hell she wants me to write, but I'm going to sit here and write because I don't know what else to do. And then those little things like, I don't know what else to do, often leads to, because I'm in this situation, I'm in that situation, I feel this way, and this makes me feel that way. It can be poetry. It can be writing books. That little shameless plug there of Enduring Wisdom is the next collaborative book that we have that launches August the 3rd. And it is a bunch of us who got together and we're writing down enduring wisdom, things that we've learned over the years that we want to continue to pass on. I put texting because even though texting is not my preferred way of having people write, because you're not really using all the words, you're using abbreviations sometimes. However, because I also coach a lot of younger people who are apt to text much faster than they can write, I include that. So if that is your only method of communicating, please do the texting. The reason I wanted you to bring paper and pencil is because I seriously believe in journaling. When we are going through these different experiences, it's very helpful to be able to get that energy out of our bodies. Many times we can't talk to our families about it because it may make them afraid. Talking to a coworker, you may not feel comfortable. Talking to other people may make you feel even more uncomfortable. So many times you can journal those thoughts out. Another thing is being able to put words to how you're feeling. Sometimes it's, I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm just not feeling good. And sometimes when you write those things down, it allows you to get that energy out, reconnect to your cerebral cortex, and put words to what you're feeling. This is also helpful with trauma victims. When they give a story back to us, oftentimes it's in splotches because there's no sequence of time for them. That's a higher level thought process. So they'll give you events. Yes?
I was going to say I wanted to read a question from the chat that's going in, and the question says, yesterday I started writing down my random thoughts as quick as they came. Does this count as cathartic writing?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. It allows you to get that out. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I'll say, you need to let that shit out. You need to just get it out. Because think about it, if you hold stool and feces inside your body forever, it putrefies, it makes you sick, it leaks out into the rest of your body. And just like this energy, if you don't get it out, those random thoughts, those racing thoughts, then it begins to leak out into everything else that you do. So cathartic writing is very, very important. Now, what are some ways to oxygenate yourself? Now, we all know that plants need carbon dioxide and we need oxygen. So how do we get oxygen?
We have breathing exercises, taking a walk, even if it's just to breathe, stand outside in the sun and just breathe, mindful breathing, smell the roses,
Yes.
stop and take a break, plants.
Yes, lots of plants. I started buying plants last year, and I have on my lanai, there's lots of plants out there because they make me feel like I'm outside. Sleep. We have to sleep. Even if we're nurses and social workers and advocates, we still have to sleep and rest. Because when we don't sleep, it tells our body, okay, we're still fighting. We're still in the fight. There's still danger. So we have to learn to sleep. Nutrition, lots of green vegetables, green leafy vegetables, not the green beans that have lots of starch in them. Of course, exercise, walk, sunlight, nature, stretching, yoga, and of course, breathing, which brings me to our next activity, just breathe. So at this moment, we're going to take a pause because we have just discussed a lot of stuff that is heavy. And although we're getting into the easier stuff of cathartic writing and oxygenating ourselves, it still helps to take a moment and just breathe. So I want you to take a really, really deep breath. Inhale for 6 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold it for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's do it again. Deep breath. 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now just take a really deep breath and breathe in all the positive energy and love and peace. And exhale all the exhaustion, the defeat, the anger, and the fear. Another deep breath of peace and love and positivity. And exhale all the pain, the hurt, the confusion, and uncertainty. And if you notice, I had you breathe in for 6 seconds and breathe out for 7. You can change those numbers if you can't breathe in that long. You can change it to breathing in for 3 seconds, exhaling for 5. Just be sure that the length of time you spend exhaling is longer than inhaling. And that's very important because when your body is fighting or it's stressed, you take these shallow breaths. If you look at the animals or you look at people who are getting ready to fight, you'll notice that they're shallow breathing. It's like, so they're breathing in and out very short spans. When you're relaxing or you're tricking your brain into believing that you are relaxing, you'll breathe in and then you'll exhale for a longer period of time. It's like watching someone sleep. They breathe in and then they exhale for a longer period of time. And it is a perfect way to catch a break, catch a deep breath, count. It's much like mindful breathing. There are all types of breath exercises that can change your mood and change your restfulness. When you lay down to rest, if you're having a hard time sleeping, you can concentrate on your breath, breathing in for 6 seconds, breathing out for 8. And you continue to do that as you feel your body relaxing. Sometimes you may have to put on some meditation music that helps to further relax you. Any questions so far? Okay. Viral mutations. Now, we all know that there's a new variant called the Delta variant. And that is because viruses mutate. It is a natural order of things. When viruses mutate, they find new ways of becoming susceptible. So let's say I have virus A. Virus A gets into me, my body creates antibodies for it, I fight it off. So the virus is like, okay, I got to get another weapon. So they add another weapon to their DNA and they come back and it's a mutated version. It is like a war, which is why I use the word ambush. When you go to war, for example, the Europeans, there were several. There was the British, the Portuguese, and the Dutch were all attacking the shores of Brazil. There's a reef out there, a reef that kept their ships from getting close. So they came in, they had their wooden ships, they all sank. So they had to go mutate or change their approach. They went back, they got steel or metal, steel enforced ships, and they came back. They were able to get a little farther. And then they got those same ships, they mutated again, got smaller ships that would make it to the shore, and they were able to actually breach the shores of Brazil. So the virus is doing the same thing. We as humans are capable of mutating our approaches as well. So here we're going to talk about viral resilience. What are the ways to be resilient at remaining connected to one another and remaining well? So what are ways to be resilient at remaining connected and well? Is everyone stumped?
We have some stuff coming in the chat just right now. Keep communicating, don't isolate via Zoom. Being intentional about disconnecting and reconnecting. Positive relationships. Call for often.
I love the being intentional about disconnecting and reconnecting, because that's exactly what a virus does. I mean, when it's defeated, it disconnects, it regroups, and then it reconnects. And that's what we have to do. We're connected to so many different things. This pandemic just added on to the vicarious traumas that we experience. And so we have to know when we have to step back, take care of ourselves, and then go back in renewed and rejuvenated. So a lot of the things that we did over the year, we had drive-by birthday parties. We had drive-through graduations. We had families making TikTok videos. We had so many Zoom calls. I was just tired of Zoom by the time I got halfway through the pandemic. It was Zoom, 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 Zoom. And then there were Teams, there were go-to meetings. The children were doing virtual learning. So that was an adjustment for them, especially for the children who are very outgoing and extroverted, having to stay at home and not being able to interact with their peers. Teachers having to juggle the classroom children and the virtual children and trying to include both sets of children. It was very, very hectic. However, we were very creative in creating different ways of staying connected. So I want to play this video. Hopefully it plays. Yes, it will. That the Parkland forensic team put together during the pandemic. I love it. Did y'all love it? I love it. I'm such a sucker for my forensic team. Oh, it's gonna play again. I didn't mean to play it again. Some of the other things that we did, we used FaceTime, we used social media. We had photography contests at jobs where people would go out and take photos and be able to submit them. And they were kind of interactive. We had stay-at-home family time, we had games, we had virtual book clubs, and even in online education for universities, for colleges, the art class that I took came up with this quarantine art project. And we had to take a famous photo or famous piece of art and recreate it using our family or people who were around us because everybody was quarantined. So we couldn't actually go to the art museum. So these are just some little things that we did that I thought were very innovative in getting through the challenge of connecting with one another in a stay-at-home mandate type of society. So the I is identify gratefulness. What are some things you have found a renewed gratefulness for during this COVID-19 pandemic? I know for me, it was being able to have my children close to me all the time. When they were going to school, we had lots of issues with teachers and students. My youngest son was often bullied because he is different. He's intelligent. He likes things in order, much like his mother. And so we had a lot of bullying going on, and teachers who were also bullying him and who attempted to bully me. And so it was being able to have them close to me so that as a mother, I can have them where I know that they're okay. I can see what the teachers are saying to them. I can hear, and I can be more interactive while they were at home. So I was very, very grateful for that. Anyone else?
We had someone, Rita, say, I had a pandemic baby and I'm grateful I was able to be there for her.
Yeah.
A chance to reset and regroup priorities, family walks.
Yes. I was really, really grateful that even though it's an inconvenience, that the stores were closed, that they closed early. When I was growing up, everything was closed at about 8 or 9 o'clock. So this timing now reminds me of when I was a young girl. and people were able to go home and be with their families. And it creates more of a community instead of so many individuals, because as the song, which was so greatly chosen, the intro song when you came in was Lean on Me. Well, we can't lean on each other if we're never around each other. We're never in close proximity of each other. And so we end up creating these work families because that's who we're around. And then our real families, it becomes more of a traumatic experience when they pass on because we didn't get to spend much time with them. So one of the things that was I was very grateful for was being able to still touch my family, still spend time, and other people were able to spend time with their families, spend time with themselves. Many people built businesses during this pandemic because they had the time to focus on things that they were more passionate about. And again, there's journaling. For identifying gratefulness, get a gratefulness journal, and each day write things that you're grateful for, write things that you're thankful for. Mindful moments with family. That picture is actually my younger two children and I were actually got to go to the park, and I thought it was so amazing to see us, one on either side and me in the middle, being able to walk and see our shadows and enjoy being outside, enjoy being able to touch one another. Basic necessities like tissue, alcohol, hand sanitizer, soap. There were times when there was no soap on the shelves. Being grateful for our freedoms which do not impinge upon the freedoms of others, and being grateful for our voice. We have a voice, and as we've seen over the past year, it's very important that we use our voice, whether that voice is in spoken word, or it's in written word, or it's in presence. We have a responsibility to be grateful that we are able to be on this side of the living and still use our voices. D for debrief. What methods of debriefing do you use in your personal life? I know in nursing, we often debrief after a code or a difficult patient. We will get together and debrief and say, well, this is how that went, or it's kind of like we can vent. Sometimes we just have a venting session where, I cannot believe that this happened. This is what I wish would have happened. Thanking one another for being there. In personal life, it's debriefing on different experiences. It's having those conversations after an argument or a heated discussion. So what methods of debriefing do you use in your personal life?
We have dinner talks, coffee chats, driving on the way home, listening to music, praying, post-its, prayer seat.
Post-its?
I'm wondering if maybe she meant podcasts, but post-its, I mean, you could, oh, messages, okay.
Yes.
We have words of affirmation, my own time out in my room, no phone, no TV, singing like you're on American Idol on the way home. Ashley, yes. Shower processing and letting dreams do the work. Listening to podcasts to feel connected to the world around me. Spending time with my animals, my cricket, and Grey's Anatomy. We're right. Scheduling time with Friends to talk.
Yes. Schedule some time to talk. Often we don't have anyone to debrief with because much of what we do is confidential. So it's very difficult to find someone that you can talk about a particular case with or a particular situation with. And in our personal life, sometimes talking about certain experiences may make you feel vulnerable. It make you feel like I have to be strong. I have to not show that this is affecting me, or it's going to be okay. It's just life. So another way of debriefing often is writing it down when you have no one to talk to get it out of you. In the shower, I know someone mentioned shower. I like to do shower meditations, especially if I've had a very difficult night, whether that's personal or at work. And in that shower meditation, you stand underneath the water and you just envision white light going from the top of your head all the way through your body, through your hands, your toes, everywhere, until your body is completely filled with white light. And you allow all of the negative emotions, the tiredness, the discomfort to wash down the drain. And then you get out and you do your breathing that we talked about, and you may do some journaling, or you may just need to lay down and rest. But it's very important that you find someone or some method, some trusted someone and trusted method of talking about those experiences. For example, I have a cousin who caught COVID and he passed away. He was in Oklahoma City. So because of the pandemic, we couldn't really travel to the funeral home or the church to have the funeral. So it was a virtual funeral where they had the screen up. It was kind of like a Zoom meeting. And you watched the funeral online. Being able to talk about what that feels like. What does it feel like to have to reevaluate your beliefs and your traditions? You were once able to attend funerals, attend the wake. You went to the cemetery, everybody hugged, everybody cried on one another's shoulders or whatever. And now we have to rearrange our lives to fit within the confines of a pandemic in order for us to stay alive. So it's one of the things that I want to make clear is that one of the ways to debrief death and loss is to become vulnerable to life. And I know I've mentioned vulnerability a lot, but vulnerability is something that we're not used to being able to express. Vulnerability is something that we use to cover up. It's more acceptable to appear strong. It's more acceptable to appear as one who doesn't cry or one who's not emotional. Many times our job doesn't allow us to be emotional because we have to be non-biased. And so after those events are over, who are we talking to? Who are we getting that out to? What are we doing with that energy? We have to become vulnerable to life, meaning we have to become vulnerable to the things that are just life. They're part of life. Death is part of life. Trauma is part of life. Disappointments are part of life, as are excitements and successes and goals met. They're all part of life. And each event is something that teaches us something different. So when we begin to look at life as a training ground or as a school where we're learning something so we can get to the next level, it becomes a little easier to decide how we're going to debrief those experiences. And it becomes easier for those experiences to teach us something and give us something rather than taking something away from us. So the next one is, we kind of talked about where you fit in the puzzle as far as debriefing and how important it is for you to debrief or talk about things after they've happened and after experience meeting. 19 is, of course, made of the numbers 1 and 9. Remember, you are one person. You are one individual, which means you must prioritize yourself for receiving love. Loving yourself is being emotionally vulnerable with yourself. It is what I like to call selfishness, which is not a social norm. For all intents and purposes, it is not socially acceptable to be selfish. However, we must first learn to be selfish, meaning taking care of ourselves first so that we are not giving to someone else from a deficit. For example, if we are not showing ourselves love and patience and kindness and forgiveness, then we are not giving that to other people from a surplus. We're giving from a deficit. And when you give from a deficit, the more you give, the more of a deficit you have, and the less it's a lesser quality of giving that you're giving away. You become exhausted, you become burnt out because there's nothing else left. So when we start pouring all of these things into ourselves, we start prioritizing ourselves as number one. We have to be number one. It is an anomaly. It is not what most of us have been taught, but it is something that is very necessary in order for us to continue in life, for us to continue in the roles that we have chosen, the roles that have been chosen for us. We have to prioritize ourselves first, meaning taking care of our mental health, taking care of our physical health, taking care of our emotional health. We are one person. We cannot be all things to everybody and only nothing to ourselves. We have to be all things to ourselves. We have to give ourselves love. We have to give ourselves patience. We have to be patient with the fact that I can't remember to journal every day, or patient with the fact of I forgot to say my affirmations today, or I got angry today and I said I wasn't going to get angry. Forgiving ourselves for those experiences, forgiving ourselves for feeling that we have to be perfect because we're not meant to be perfect. The other thing is find 9 things that make you happy. And I'm going to ask that you take a moment and write down some of those 9 things. Things that make you feel happy, revived, magical, excited, energetic, but they cannot include any of your roles and they cannot include other people. This is all about you. 9 things that make you happy that do not involve anyone else and does not involve any role that you fulfill. I know that'll take a little bit, so we'll give you a little bit of moment, maybe 2 minutes. And you're welcome to post those things in the chat. You're welcome to just write them down for your personal keeping. But I want you to write down 9 things that make you happy, and it doesn't involve anyone else. And while you're thinking and writing, I'm going to go over a few of mine that I had to do as well, because I wouldn't dare ask you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So, one thing that really makes me happy is beach sand. The fluffy beach sand, it's like powder. I like the way it feels on my toes. I like being next to the ocean, sticking my feet in the water. Doesn't have to go all the way up because I don't like all the slimy things that are in the ocean, but I love to stick my feet in the water. Reading a book uninterrupted. I love to crawl up in my bed and have pillows around me, or crawl up on the couch and have a throw blanket across me with a cup of tea and just read my book without being interrupted. I love photography. Many of the pictures in here are ones that I've taken with my own camera. I love creating jewelry. I love writing, which is why I have several collaborative books that are best-selling. And I do lots of journaling. I have a container of journals. I have a journal for different events, different aspects of my life. I have one that's called something through separation. And then I have one that's a metaphysical journal. I love road trips with an audible book, just to get in the car and drive and listen to an audible book is amazing to me. I love going to bookstores and just browsing through all the books at my own leisure. And I love shopping for blankets, fuzzy socks, and movie snacks because I like to eat. So
We had someone in chat also mention fuzzy socks,
yeah,
trains, Legos, being outside, sleep, purple, my dog or their dog, not my dog, their dog, mountain, the beach. Someone said, I'm so happy I'm healthy. Music, food, yes, food, walking, pets, camping, beach, sand, ocean air, and mountains.
yes,
This one right here, the smell of rice cooking. Absolutely. Nature sounds, their cats, old home movies, baking, cooking, journaling, fuzzy socks, fishing, hearing the soft rain, photography, road trips with their husband and stepson. They're super funny. Taking a walk and cleaning, the smell of wet dirt.
yes. Oh my gosh, the smell
They're
of
great.
yes, it reminds me of making mud pies when I was a little girl. Wow. All of those things are so awesome. And I would ask that as you're writing these things down and becoming aware of things that make you happy, that you would schedule some time at least once a month to do just that one thing. Maybe put on some fuzzy socks or have fuzzy socks. I have so many fuzzy socks, but have fuzzy socks like laying on the bed for you when you get home from work, or from wherever you're going, so that those are the things that there's something there that's like, oh, these are waiting for me. Or schedule time to read a book, schedule time to go outside and just exist. These are things that we have become aware of more so, hopefully, during the pandemic, because we had to slow down. Nature said for us to slow down, we didn't hear. And so nature made us slow down. And now that we've slowed down, it's time to take advantage of those things. So for the love of COVID, cathartic writing, oxygenate yourself, viral resilience, identify gratefulness, debrief, Remember, you are only one person, and write down 9 things that create your happiness and schedule time to do at least one of those. So what's in it for you? Well, what do you think's in it for you? What's in it for you? Your personal relationship with your own past traumas affects how you interact with yourself in the present. Whether that's past traumas from childhood or past traumas from COVID or combination of both. How you prioritize your self-care or don't. How you give from a deficit or don't. How you are able to dissociate from current experiences that create an emotional debt. All of these are relative to your relationship with your trauma. What are you doing to help yourself heal to a place of wellness from those traumas? Your relationship with your traumas affects how you serve the community in your varied roles, whether you are able to empathize, the intentions you set when you're doing your roles, the desire to help or not, avoidance of certain issues, and prioritizing your advocacy. There are many, many traumas. I just went to the LGBTQ roundtable, and one of the many traumas that is experienced is the lack of acceptance. The trauma of being at work for me and hearing people talk negatively about members of the LGBTQ and not realizing who they're talking to. And these are usually new people, because most people who know me are very well aware that that is not the type of conversation that Foxy is going to allow around her. But yet and still, it's very traumatic, because it's like someone saying, oh, because because your skin is not pale white and your hair is not jet black and your fingernails are not painted pink and your toenails aren't painted blue and you're not wearing a pair of Jordache, for those who are a little older, Jordache jeans and UGG boots and a Calvin Klein shirt, and all this stuff is all mixed up, I know. But because you're not wearing all of that, then you're not accepted. And much of that has to do with the traumas that they've experienced, the experiences of their parents or whomever raised them, the parents of them and whoever raised them. So it goes on down the line. So what's in it for you? It's for you to change the culture that we live in. It's for you to be well and create a culture of wellness. And that wellness begins with us. And I know we have heard it over and over and over and over and over. When you get on the airplane, you put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else. Because if you go through putting it on everyone else lives, and then you pass out because you're giving to them from a deficit. We have to learn to give to ourselves so that we're giving from an overflow or surplus. When you learn these steps that are here in this COVID-19 acronym, you're able to transfer them to any direct or indirect trauma and keep yourself in a state of wellness. These are tools that you can use. They're transferable. You can use them for yourself. You can teach them to your family. You can teach them to your clients. It is something that can be widely used, and it helps me help you. It helps me fulfill my purpose of helping people heal and transform their traumas into wellness. So that's what's in it for you. Are there any questions or any comments? I just love that little owl. And I'm going to stop the share. Well, I have one more slide, I forgot, but any questions or comments?
Maybe while people are typing out their thoughts or thinking about what is something that they want to ask, I just want to extend again, thank you, Foxy, for your time, your energy, your knowledge, and being with us virtually again this year at TASA. Thanks for everybody who has participated. And once again, major shout out to our interpreters, Susana and Azucena, our bilingual support staff, Maya, and everyone else on the TASA team. We have a comment in the chat box. It says, I enjoyed listening to you. Everything was great, and we'll be applying this.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. So upcoming events, the book Enduring Wisdom is going to be launched on August the 3rd. And if you go to Amazon on that launch week, which is August the 3rd through the 7th, you can download it for free. It is full of information that would be very beneficial. Please leave a review on Amazon during that week when you download it. On August the 18th, I will be on Off the Cuff Live with Sunny Dawn Johnston. It's a podcast. And then on 9/11, I will have an online workshop. It's called Invoking Positivity from Your Past Traumas. And if you follow on Facebook, the event is there and you can sign up and register there. If you're having trouble, you can visit my website, ispeakfoxy.com. Send me a message or an email and I can get you registered that way. Please follow on social media and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be posting various videos and things there on so many different topics. It's not all sadness. There's lots of happiness there too.
We had a question, Foxy. Someone asked if you had your own podcast.
Oh my gosh. Oh, let's talk about that. I have been instructed many, many times to do a podcast. The only reason that I have not started it is because once I start something, I'm very devoted to it. And I had nursing school. Well, I was getting my BSN this year, over the past year or so. I graduate this year. And then starting January, I'm going to go back and get my advanced practice registered nurse in psychiatry. That way I can be more beneficial in the emotional and mental health aspect of what I do. In February, June. In June, I was featured on Live Stories with Dr. Gloria Crosland. It's on Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. And they have asked me to start a small segment once a month on their TV station, Fox 5. That will start in January. So I'll be recording for that starting November, and then they start showing January once a month. And as they give me the links, I will post those on the YouTube channel so that you can view them there. And meanwhile, in the background, I am getting the stuff together to start my own podcast because the information is so needed. But what would really be helpful in doing a podcast is if people would send me emails and tell me what they want to hear about. Because I talk about this stuff so much that it's like talking about baking cookies. It's something that's just like normal for me, and I sometimes don't know what topics people want to hear about. So if they can email me different topics, that's what I'm collecting now, is different topics to talk about so that I can get that that started. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, y'all send those emails in. Again, if you have any questions for TASA staff, you can reach us at conference@tasa.org. Don't forget to fill out your evaluation. Maddie dropped it in the chat box. Thank you again to our speaker, Foxy. As always, you are phenomenal. You are amazing, and your energy that you bring, even virtually, is just so much appreciated, and I cannot thank you enough. I always learn from you, and I value everything that you share. So thanks everyone for being here. Don't forget, we have our keynote speaker at 3:30. Feel free to stick around for the next couple of minutes if you want to just connect with Foxy, need to get down any emails, anything like that. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you everyone for your time and your energy today. Thank you to our interpreters, Susana, Azucena, TASA staff. Y'all are amazing. Our speaker and all of our participants. Thank y'all so much for sharing virtual space with us and always showing up for TASA events, pandemic or not.
Yes.
Appreciated. We thank you. I will be closing out this session in just a couple seconds, y'all.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to close out. Y'all have a great one. Thank you so much, Foxy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.